Okay, welcome to the first video of a new series I'll be doing. Just showing small little tutorials on how to adjust things in Lightroom for basic or beginners and all that sort of thing. Some people have asked me to do some of these, so I will do some quick ones. Obviously, this program is incredibly powerful. Can do a lot for your images. But I'll just show you some basic things. Sorry for the noise in the background. It's just started raining here, so if that microphone picks it up, yeah, my apologies. So over your right hand side, once you go to the develop mode, it allows you to change exposure. Now if you shoot in RAW, like you probably should be, this allows you to have a lot more control over your shadows and highlights and things like that. Now this is a photo I took the other day of my motorcycle as a test for layering, which I'll get into in another video later down the track. But yeah, I'll show you what exposure can do in Lightroom. So now I'm a little bit underexposed because I'm lighting the subject with speed lights. So I sort of wanted it to be a bit dark, and I layer the light. So this might be a bit dark. So what I want to do is you want to crank up the exposure just a little bit. Now to give you an idea, I usually put a bit of contrast in there as well. But the highlights are very important because it allows control over the brighter sort of parts. Now we won't actually worry too much about this in the sky, so I'll back that down a little bit for more so in the chrome, but I don't want it too far because it sort of makes it flat. So I can back it down a little bit. If you're shooting RAW, the shadows are very important because you can actually get a lot of information out of the shadows if you shoot in RAW. JPEG, it's sort of because it's a baked file, you'll lose a lot of that information hidden in the shadows. So if you shoot in RAW, it allows you more control, basically. So these are all your controls over here. Whites are pretty self-explanatory. You can have a bit of a play with these, but that gives you an idea of how much control you can have. Obviously every image is going to be different, so I suggest sort of having a bit of a play with that. Now up the top here is your temp, which is your white balance. So you can adjust your white balance after the fact. I'd add a bit of warmth to that because it was sort of sunset, so you can add a little bit of warmth. So more obviously it's warmth. You can go colder right to the left, warmer to the right. So you can go nuts if you want to, but we'll just a little bit nuts. So you've got your clarity, which I always add a bit of clarity to it. You can sort of see in the road down the bottom here. That adds just a little bit of detail to that. Obviously if you go too much, it's unnatural, but there's no rule for that. You can go as crazy as you like. So I usually boost a little bit of vibrance and a little bit of saturation. Any other adjustments can be done later, which I do in Photoshop. I always do what I can in this and then go to Photoshop afterwards and tweak it a little bit more. But anyway, the point is exposure, which is basically that first slider, and then you can adjust what you've got in the shadows afterwards. So I'll like it about there. That'll do. So another interesting thing, when you have sky, now I don't know how well it's going to do with this one, but this up here, graduated filter, if you select that, actually gives you a whole bigger list of controls for a literally a graduated filter there. So you can bring that down to where you like. I'll just say about there. If you hold down the O button, it'll actually tell you what's being affected. That red is a indicator of how much is being changed. So what you can do with this, because it's very localized, you can change your exposure. So you can sort of darken the clouds, you can add contrast, basically all the same controls you have to the entire image you have just to where you would like it. Good for landscapes. If you've got a bright image like that, obviously your sky is usually brighter than the foreground or the subject. You can change the exposure of just the background. You can add a bit more clarity if you like. I won't go too in depth there, but yeah, basically you can make it very unnatural as well, but I'll have it about there. So if you select that again, it goes back to the overall, and then if you change the exposure, it will change the whole image. So you can tweak it to where you like. So that's all I've got with the exposure sort of part of it. I'll do another quick sort of tutorial thingy a bit later on. So hope you enjoyed it. See you later.